my kitchen, Gigi's Kitchen, where you get to learn all about cooking and prepping and dining and just general everyday thing about food. So, we've had a disaster, a real disaster. And I'm sorry to say, life throws curves to us, but we all have to be flexible and be ready to change direction and start anew. And that's what we're doing today. So, my disaster is my deep freeze went out. It's gone. And everything was thawed. So we had to sort it and clean it and make sure what was there and good and bad. So of course I have to call in all my resources. Number one resources are my sisters. So they came over and helped me, and we got it all sorted and laid out of what we can salvage, we think. So the next resource I have to call is my consultants. Yes, I do read my cookbooks. I read the Julia Tiles and the Joy of Cooking, and I collect them all. But sometimes you need somebody that works in the industry to give you real information for real life, because food safety is a big issue. It's really important that we make sure our food is safe. So my first consultant is Lynn, who is a journeyman fish cutter and meat packager, and my other consultant is Scott, who is a journeyman meat cutter. And I called them both, and Lynn came over, and Scott's on the phone, and we're talking through what we have and what we can do with it to make sure what we're doing is safe. Because as you can see here, I have two gigantic choice cut briskets. I bought these on sale when they were on sale, and I put them in the freezer so we would have them for holidays and summer cookouts. But now I have to cook these or else they're going to go bad. So Scott's suggestion is that I grind one of them, and he says that once you grind the beef, it changes the molecular structure so that you can refreeze it ground. So we will try to ground one and make it into patties or for ground beef or specialty or on the grill or whatever, but we'll grind one and then we can refreeze that one. I have a little grinder that I put on my KitchenAid blender that I can use to grind with, so I'm hoping I don't burn it up doing this project. The other one, we're just going to, after Lynn finishes trimming it with the guidance of Scott on the FaceTime, trimming it up, we're going to determine what we can do with it. I want to put most of it on the grill with some wood chips and just cook it in a Texas barbecue style. And then part of it I want to put in the Insta pot so we can break it down for beef street tacos. So that's the plan for this. So stay tuned on the briskets to see how that turns out. Lots of cooking to do because I don't want to really lose any of this. Of course, we did lose some that I wasn't able to save, and so especially any of the fish I had in there had to go. Thank goodness there was no salmon and no Gulf shrimp. So that was a thankful thing. But anyway, let's get on with it so we can get on with our cooking. So, and stay tuned, see how it turns out, and don't forget to subscribe. That'll help me out a lot. And I appreciate it all. Stay with me. So let's cook. So here we are with our brisket. Lynn's ready to do the trimming and Ray's holding the camera for her. And Scott is on FaceTime with Lynn and they're reviewing it all so we can try to get this done as efficiently as possible and get it going. This is the smaller brisket, so we're going to grind this brisket. So my understanding is she's going to trim it up, cut it into chunks so that we can put it through the grinder. So now I'm going to turn it over to Lynn and let her continue on with the story.
Can you see those fat layers?
You want to take that off. You want to take some of that off because that's your thickest part of the fat. And you want a little bit of fat since you're making it into a hamburger.
Yeah.
You do want some of that fat because fat is flavor. And when you do trim your brisket, you want to take small cuts because you don't want to gouge out the meat. If you feel the fat, Lynn, you can actually feel how thick it is. It'll tell you how thick it is.
I can feel it.
Yeah, so go ahead and
But we don't want all, we want most of that off, right?
yes, you do. You want to take most of that off. Because brisket in anyway is a fatty cut. But if you were going to smoke that whole thing like that, I personally would leave most of the fat on there.
Okay.
But since you're making hamburger, you can trim, and at this point you can decide how fatty you want your hamburger.
Yeah, okay. Now on the other side.
I think we're thinking 80-20, the traditional 80-20.
That is correct. 80-20 is traditional for hamburgers. There are some people who do like hamburger on the leaner side, but you have to be careful because if you barbecue leaner hamburger meat, a lot of your flavor is going to cook out of it. Now go ahead and take that off, Lynn. Yep.
Notice I'm wearing my official cutting glove.
I do. You want to be safe at all times.
I'm taking this down.
Yeah, take that off as well. That's a pretty big piece as well.
Anything I want to keep, I can trim off of there when I'm done.
Yeah, exactly. You can also trim it off when you go to cut the brisket down to fit through your.
Yeah, it's going to be in small cubes.
You can also take some fat off at that point as well.
That's going to be the next step, yeah, that I can do. It'll be easier to see some of these other parts.
That is right. You'll be able to see how thick the fat is once you start cubing it up to fit through your machine.
Yeah.
So, but you know, a lot of times you'd be amazed how much you can feel.
Yeah.
You can do a lot of this by feel how thick the fat is and so on and so forth. When you start cubing it, you can always adjust.
Yeah.
Once you start cubing it.
Let's see what this is. Oh, this is that. That one is like ribbon, like tripey feel fat.
Yeah, yeah. You know, and you can just go in there.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, see, that's gonna be in there, so you can kind of dig that out a little bit. And generally, when you grind, when you're doing your hamburger, I tend to like to run it through twice through my grinder.
Okay. Now, this is the KitchenAid grinder. As you know, we're working on emergency resources here. So.
No, that KitchenAid will do exactly what you want it to do.
All right.
Yeah, perfect.
And then I'll take some more of this off.
Yeah.
Because it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard lard.
Yeah. If it's hard, it's still fairly thick. You got a pretty good sizable fat cap right there. So.
Yeah, it's still there. All right, darling. I think I got it from here.
Okay.
I'm going to be cubing these up to fit through the feeder on this grinder. We're going to feed it through twice is what's recommended. So I'm going to be finishing cubing this all up so we can get it all ground so we can make patties or bulk burger for meatloaf or whatever. All right, I've cut a corner off of the main large piece of brisket. Now I'm just going to cube it up. I want it, as I said, small enough to fit through there. So stew size. Just will be fine to fit through there. If you feel like it's a little too big, cut it a little smaller, doesn't matter, and just set it aside. So I'm going to do this and finish cubing this up, and then we'll get to grinding. Now that the brisket's all cut into cubes, we'll be able to feed it through the grinder, and it's going to come out the front. When it first comes out, it's going to kind of spurt. When it first comes out, we're going to hold our hand over the front. We're starting with the chili plate, or wide coarse grind, and then we're gonna, once we get all that ground, we're gonna go to a fine grind. That's the one that makes hamburger patties and meatloaf and stuff like that. And then we'll go through this twice. We got quite a bit to do, so I'll start it and then you can see from there. I want my mixer on at 4.
Okay, Lynn's gonna just keep grinding until she gets all those cubes through. for our first round, which will be the 4th round, and then she'll come back and change the plate and do a fine grind. So we'll move on to something else while we're waiting on her to finish the grind. So here's our finished grind. Lynn's finished grinding it, got it all ready to go. It looks really good, but I will have to say we did not run it through twice. We only ran it through the coarse ground once, and it was so it's so high fat that it's going to stick together. My coarse ground is not near as coarse as what you would have in the retail setting. We have quite a bit of beef here, so we've decided to divide it up into 1 pound packages, which we're going to do. But Lynn's going to show you the patty real quick. One important thing when making a patty is that we do not want to massage the meat. You just want to handle it as little as possible, because we want the crooks and the crannies that are inside the patty to hold all the juices together. And if you start messing with the meat, then it starts breaking down and becomes mush, and you will have no crooks and crannies to hold the juice. Now you have a really nice patty. It's ready to go, and we're going to throw it on the grill and see how it turns out. You can salt and pepper them if you want. Here we are. Brisket burgers today, and then we're going to package the rest up, and I don't know what we'll use it for, but I'm sure we'll come up with something good. Maybe sloppy joes or a brisket meatloaf. That sounds really yummy too. Moving on to the second brisket, Lynn has started trimming it. She's trimmed down the fat cap to about 1/4 inch thick over the top and took any of the really hard pieces off. And then flip it to the other side, and she'll show you where she's trimmed it all, except for this one corner, which she's going to whittle away at that a little bit. It's a very hard, fatty part that she's going to take off. Then we're going to cut some in half, one end, to put in the Instapot, and the other, I think we've changed our mind. We're going to go ahead and salt and pepper it in the traditional Texas barbecue style, and put it in the oven and roast it. It's very low temperature, 220 to 225 for 10 hours at least in the oven. And then I will put it out on our grill. I don't have a smoker, but I want to have a smoke flavor. So we do have wood chips, and we can make a wood chip packet to put on the grill and put it out there at 200 and finish it out there to hopefully do a kind of a reverse smoke situation. Anyway, there we are, and we're moving on with our disaster day cooking. The flat part that we want to smoke, have a little smoke too, but we're going to start it in the oven at 225, 250. And we're going to leave it there low and slow for a very long time. The first thing we'll do is we're going to coat it with yellow mustard. And we're going to liberally sprinkle it with salt and pepper. And the pepper that we're using is a pepper blend. It has a fresh ground black pepper, Tilla cherry black pepper. It has white pepper and chili flakes. So it has a little bit of everything and a bit of a zing to it. So we're going to liberally put that all on there. And we're going to put our salt, and then we're going to flip it over. Then we're going to do the same thing to the other side. Pat it down in there really good, and then we're going to do the other side. That looks good. Yep. And then we're going to rub that around and pat it in real good. We are going to lay it in the center of our tray, which is lined with aluminum foil and a layer of parchment. Make sure it's good and sealed. And it will leak out the juices, because you know it'll be really juicy, and it will leak out of this. So every once in a while you have to check your tray. You could put it in something deeper, but right now my deep roasting pan has pork chops in it. So we're just going to stick it in this and keep an eye on it. And just seal it up as tight and tight as we can get it. This is another way to braise. This is just a braising. We're going to braise this roast till it breaks down, and then we will put it on the grill. So we are going to go ahead and slice this through the middle so you can see the fat line that runs through the middle. So Lynn's going to take her blade and she's going to separate that all the way through the middle, because this will not fit in my Instapot, and I don't have one of those gigantic Instapots. So what she's going to do is she's going to slowly just go all the way down until she gets down in there and opens it up, and then she can take a little bit of that fat out. Then she'll slice it, and then we will put it into 2 layers in the Instapot. Now remember, we're going to pull all this apart. We're not trying to make slices out of it like we are with the flat. So when we pull it apart, it won't matter because it's all going to be separated anyway. Now she's going to go ahead and continue to split that through, all the way through.
Yeah, I'm just feeling for the thick parts and removing that. There's enough fat in here, it's going to stay moist. I'm going to rub it down with this spice.
This is our Mexican seasoning, and I'll add the ingredients, but I do make it from scratch, and I keep it in the cabinet because, you know, I like to keep it basic, and we don't use packets. But if you do have a packet of Mexican seasoning you like and you feel comfortable with it, then just go ahead and sprinkle it on. It gets ready to go into the little pot. It's awfully big, so we might have to cook it. We're going to go for 2 hours in the Instapot, and then we'll check it, turn it over, and go whatever we think we need to go more, and then we'll take it on from there. Like I said, we're going to pressure cook, so I'm going to hit my pressure cooker, and it's already 2 hours, so we're going to leave it right there, and then in 2 hours we'll take the lid off of it, see how tender it is, and then if we need to, we'll flip it over and add another hour, maybe 2. I don't know how long it's going to take. This is an experiment. We've never done this one before. I just want to review real quick how things turned out with our briskets. We had 2 large briskets, and one we decided to grind and convert into hamburger meat, and we did. And we ended up with approximately 8 packages of about 1 pound of ground brisket. And we made a couple of hamburger patties out of them and tried it out, and they were really good. They had really good flavor to them. I'm looking forward to maybe making a meatloaf. The other one we cut in half, and we were going to do one in Texas style barbecue on the grill with a little smoker kit thing, because I don't have a smoker. And then we were going to do the point in the Instapot with our Mexican seasoning so we can make street tacos out of it. So, all in all, the brisket flat didn't turn out. We had an accident with that, and I think I might have just enough brisket here left to make a chopped beef sandwich out of. So that's what we're eating for lunch today. All in all, it tastes really good, but it got left in the oven way too long. And so it's nobody's fault. It just sometimes we have accidents in the kitchen. So that happened. But the crown turned out really well, and the Mexican seasoning, and it just falls apart. So I will take this and break it down, pull it all apart, see how soft it is, and that's going to be great in our street tacos. And then we will put it into individual bags like we did here and put it in the freezer, and it'll be ready to go for when we want a quick Mexican taco, or maybe I'll make enchiladas out of it, who knows, but the shredded beef is perfect. It turned out well. And this is the broth that came off of the crown with the Mexican seasoning. So I'm going to cover this with saran. I'm going to go ahead and put it in the refrigerator. I'm going to let the fat gel, and I will remove the fat and store it elsewhere, and then I will save the broth and store it for when I'm cooking maybe some Mexican rice or something. I will use that broth to help flavor that as well. So look forward to that one, and I'll see you next week. Bye.